Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cut and Splice. This is Matt speaking,
This is Gil.
And this is Jason.
and we've got the Oscars coming up. So,
Yay!
this has been kind of a big year for movies. I personally think that we've had a relatively good year for movies, possibly because the unspecified virus of unknown origins pushed a few of them back a year.
The Kung
Uh,
Flu.
Oh wow, we're going there.
uh, but yeah, we've kind of got a stacked year when it comes to movies, and I think we all thought that it would be a good idea to give a brief overview of what we thought about the movies that are looking for statues this Sunday.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Kick us off. What do you think? Uh,
I'm frustrated
uh,
by what got nominated and what didn't.
So what those were?
I think before saying anything, I should just mention that I think Matt was mentioning that he had stuff he still wanted to see. I'm sure we all had stuff that we didn't get to, but I feel grossly unprepared this year. There's so many movies I still haven't seen yet. We only have, as of this recording, we have what 4 days, 5 days, something like that.
Yeah, no, it's that would be a good start. It's kind of talking about what we've seen and haven't seen. I've kind of made it my mission in recent years. I don't know for what reason, but I basically do my best to watch all the Best Picture nominees because I feel like that's the best bet to cover a lot of the categories.
Totally agree.
Um,
That's what I try to do as well.
but at the same time, I don't want to be dogmatic about it because let's face it, the top movies are not always the top movies. And I did veer off from the list. Like I watched some of the other movies that I just thought would be interesting and did end up being nominated for other things or not. So I watched more than just the 10. But yeah, it's not easy. It's you have to be highly motivated to do that.
How many of the 10 did you watch? Did you get all of them?
All 10, yeah. No,
Oh,
we
good.
we just
Good for
finished
you.
watching King Richard like a couple of days ago, I think, and
Nice.
yeah, that was the last one.
the funny thing is, I'm exactly the opposite. I think the movies that I missed were all the ones that went straight to streaming. Everything that got a theatrical release within driving distance of where I live, I saw. Anything that went straight to streaming, that was something that I just kind of checked out of because I don't take it seriously.
Hmm.
Well,
Uh,
I
I,
think all of them
I
were. Hmm?
Coda never was
Coda
released
is
near my
yeah, because it's an
area.
Apple. It's an Apple movie. I'm not
Right.
sure if it was released on. I'm sure it was. I think it's supposed to be released on some theaters to be nominated.
Uh,
But
yeah, but never near me. Drive My Car was never released near me. Everything else I saw. Wait, I didn't see Don't Look Up, but that just looked like a complete dumpster fire. So, um,
Wow.
it kind of was in a good way and a bad way. But
okay. Uh,
it was supposed to be
yeah.
a dumpster fire in a way. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a reason not to see the movies if they're streaming, unless of course Coda. I get it if you don't have Apple TV and they don't have the option to say rent it
Yeah.
for like $4, then yeah, I understand not making the effort. Yeah, we just we got the trial for a week for Apple TV, and we just watched Coda and Tragedy of Macbeth, and
Is that the only place you can see that that one?
I think so. I'm not sure. There's sometimes they should give the option of just renting the movie on iTunes, even if it's an Apple movie. You gotta give us like an alternative. You can't just force us to subscribe. I mean,
Hmm.
even if you subscribe for a month, it's probably worth seeing two movies for the price of $5.99, whatever it is. But I just feel like it's kind of silly. They should really give an alternative for people that want to just a la
I'm hoping
carte.
it's on the Red Box or something like that because that's one of the two movies I want to see the most.
Which
between
one?
now and Sunday. I want to see the Macbeth one and Belfast, and to a slightly lesser extent the King Richard one.
Belfast is up for rent on like Prime, I think. So
Yeah, I'm not
yeah,
worried about finding Belfast. I'm worried about finding the Macbeth movie.
yeah. Oh, Macbeth. Yeah, I think it's just Apple TV, so it's worth checking if there's an alternative streaming or what's going on there. But that one is only cinematography, I think, and acting, right?
Well,
Like as far as
you guys
Yeah.
talked about it the other day, and I just really want to see it.
oh, it's
No,
worth
I mean,
seeing. Yeah.
yeah, it's a synergasm, and it's well acted. It's beautifully shot by Bruno Debanel. I still wouldn't pick it for best cinematography. It's probably my second choice, but yeah, it's really well done.
Okay.
Which would be your first?
West Side Story, easily, hands down,
That's
no
it's a
doubt.
good looking movie, and obviously the camera work is incredible. But you know what? That's a good thing to bring up, subject of conversation, because there's always that. I think the lighting is better in Tragedy of Macbeth, but the camera work is better in West Side Story, and I guess rightfully so. The Academy tends to reward lighting more than camera work because camera work is a director's job, mostly, depending on the director. And lighting is almost always, unless it's David Fincher, almost exclusively like a cinematographer's job. That's why Pan's Labyrinth beat out Children of Men and, other.
Yeah,
Cinematography is one of the only categories where I actually have seen most of them. I've seen 3 out of the 5. I think I'll be able to squeeze West Side Story in before Sunday, and I don't know. Like as I just said, I'm not so sure about Tragedy of Macbeth, but I did see the other 3. So I don't know. Out of those 3, I don't know. I'd probably give it to Dune, but
Dune
I
was
mean,
good looking. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I've seen all 5, and look, I mean, this is one of those cases where I can tell you what I think should win and what I think will win, and it's going to be entirely different.
It's
Uh,
always that way with the Oscars.
yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
like West Side Story 100% should win. Dune and Tragedy of Macbeth, if they win, I won't throw a hissy fit about it. I think that I think that The Power of the Dog will win, and it should not.
Yeah.
So you'll be
I
tit
think
for tat.
that is the lowest tier of these nominees. Uh, you don't get to win the Oscar for best cinematography when 70% of your job was split between God and the VFX department. And
Is
that's
that
what
what
The
happened
Power of
there?
the Dog was. Yeah. All of the gorgeous shots in that movie were either provided by, you know, gorgeous landscape shots of New Zealand, which looks nothing the fuck like Montana, by the
Wow.
way.
I had a feeling we're gonna go there too. Yeah.
And clouds moving over the landscape that were clearly created in post because the clouds that were actually in the shot were not moving and they were thick. And in order to get those clouds moving, you would actually have to have thinner clouds and all that basic physics. Uh, and then everything that the cinematographer actually had to light actually looked like shit.
Yeah, no,
So
I gotta admit, like that movie, I don't know what they're. The music is great, and it's a decent movie. It's definitely not the best movie of the year, but the cinematography was not that amazing. Like it was adequate, but it was not stellar by any stretch of the imagination. I would actually rank it, yeah, fifth out of the 5 nominees.
yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, Nightmare Alley looked cool.
Yeah,
I mean, the tragedy of Macbeth was evocative. It was it kind of reminded me of like some of the old German expressionist like silent films that were just black. When we talk about black and white, we usually talk about, well, it's gray for the most part. No, it's black and white. It is literally black and white. There isn't a lot of gray in this. It's black and white, and that was awesome.
I thought Spencer was better than Nightmare Alley and Power of the Dog.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
Yes.
that's again, that's the same thing. It's the camera work is way more incredible than the lighting. The lighting
That's
is
true. I
good,
did like the camera work a lot.
but the camera work is what made that movie. But yeah, I think it deserved the nomination. I would totally bump Power of the Dog or Nightmare Alley for that movie. It's actually, I think it's only like up for acting, I think. And
yeah. Oh, by the way, well, first of all, when it comes to Spencer, that was shot on 16 millimeter.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
And I don't think that there's ever been a movie that was shot entirely on 16 millimeter that has won an Oscar for cinematography. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, Spencer was one of my favorite movies of the year. It was one of my favorite looking movies of the year, and holy shit, Kristen Stewart blew my brain out with her performance in that movie. Like she was really good.
I think it's definitely her best performance I've seen.
Yeah.
yeah, no, she should
So
definitely win. Hopefully she does. I mean, it's captivating stuff. Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
So cinematography. So we wrapped it up.
Yes.
It's an important category between me and Matt.
And we got Matt's little cinematography rant out of it too.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. To get that out of the way. Well, actually, can I ask, like, why then
sure,
West
no.
Side Story? Like, why is that your favorite specifically? Like, what specifically about it?
It's edgy, it's gritty, it fits the story perfectly. It's one of those things where I remember when some of the reports were coming out that Spielberg was going to direct a new version of West Side Story, that he was going to shoot it on 70 millimeter. And I got kind of excited about that. And then I watched the movie, and of course, it was shot 35 millimeter anamorphic. And like, no, this would have been terrible if it were shot 70 millimeter. It would have been terrible if it were shot digitally, because I mean, there is a glamour element to the story, but most of it is kind of dirty, grainy, imperfect. And so the fact that they made all these decisions to shoot it with those lenses, with those film stocks, and, you know, embrace the imperfections of the mediums. And I mean, like, if I were to stretch and say that there's one thing that I found wrong with the cinematography in West Side Story, is that they might have gone to J.J. Abrams a few times with the lens flares.
Yeah, a few times.
Yeah, a few times. But it's all driving toward what the movie is actually about, in terms of like the core of what these characters' lives are. I think that Janusz Kaminski knocked this out of the park, and I think that he should win his third Oscar for it.
I don't know. I mean, my
Again,
2 cents about it. Oh, go ahead.
no, go for it.
No, I was just gonna say, to me, it just felt overlit. Like I like the saturation. I like the color scheme. I like that that it was colorful but gritty. Like it was very thought through, the look, and the camera work is fantastic. I mean, because it's Spielberg, but it was overlit. There's like double shadows at times, and everything is backlit while we're like outside, but the sun is like overhead. It's like, we're outside, but they have like three different light sources on their faces. I get it, like that was the style they were going for, but I would have turned it like down a notch, just a notch, to just make it not as hyper, surreal as far as the look of it. But it's kind of funny because Tragedy of Macbeth, you could look at that movie and say like, oh, that's overlit, like over dramatized. But no, that actually is very like it's specific. One light source, like one effect, one shadow. Like it's not like let's just spray lights all over the lens, the frame, the
Yeah,
faces. Like it's just a bit too chaotic. But it's I get that it's a chaotic movie, so maybe that's what they're going for.
yeah. I mean, that's actually kind of interesting because there are scenes in Tragedy of Macbeth where they're. I mean, the lighting doesn't make any damn sense, but I mean, like if you actually think about it, it just looks cool, and
It's
you
not,
go
but it's
with it.
not chaotic. It's very, yeah,
Right. Yeah.
organized. Yeah.
It's very deliberate. Yeah. You've got one light and you're just going with that one light. And that, yeah, that's something that the Tragedy of Macbeth has over West Side Story. Uh,
And I'm not saying that it's
yeah.
like for the right movie, you can do whatever you want. Like it shouldn't all be the same. It's just that
Right.
it rubbed me the wrong way, like because it felt overlit. Like I liked some of the flaring, some of the shafts of light coming through windows and stuff. Those things were cool. I just don't need the outdoors to be overlit, you know? It's even Sergio Leone movies were like so overly lit in the outdoors, and this felt worse than that. you know, so that's why it's like if they went Sergio Leone over the top, then we got a problem. They went too far. So
Uh,
yeah, but but it's again, it's a preference. I didn't say it was a bad looking movie, but I definitely think the best part of the cinematography was the camera work, which is all Spielberg. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, obviously,
Well,
Kaminsky needs to make his lighting work within that, which is extremely difficult. So I give him all the credit for that.
it's kind of funny because you just jumped in and took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, I'm
so,
acknowledging that
yeah.
everything. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I, again, as far as I'm concerned, if West Side Story, The Tragedy of Macbeth, or Dune win, I'm
Or
happy
cinematography.
for cinematography. Yes, I prefer West Side Story. I love Greg Fraser. I mean, Greg Fraser is like one of the great innovators of cinematography in our day and age. He just shot the Batman. Well, he didn't just shoot the Batman. The Batman just got released. And I mean, he's making digital cinematography actually look good in a way that I never would have thought to make digital cinematography look good. And I wouldn't mind seeing him win for that either. But yeah, I just don't give it to the power of the dog. And also don't give Benedict Cumberbatch Best Actor for The Power of the Dog. Actually, this is a segue. Another thing about having lived in Montana for a year, Benedict Cumberbatch does a good like generic American accent, but he only does the same American accent every time he plays an American, and he sounds nothing like a Montanan. In fact, nobody in the movie sounds like a Montanan. Benedict Cumberbatch, I mean, obviously, I've got my shrill, heavenly Woody Allen voice, so I can't really do the Benedict Cumberbatch impression. Like, hey, everybody, let's get naked and take a swim down by the creek.
He didn't say that in the movie.
Well,
He might have said it in his head. The character may have said
I don't, I know we didn't say that in the movie, but I mean, Montanans
That's in the
sound more
spoof
like
that Matt's gonna do of Power of the Dog.
no.
Hey,
That's
everybody.
it's in the deleted scene that we don't know about yet.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. I was like, should be like, Towel should come there. It's like,
yeah,
does anybody need a towel?
but
No, I can see that.
does anyone want to get his dick sucked by a towel? But no. But Montanans sound
That's funny.
more. Montanans sound more like hey, y'all want to take a dip down by the creek?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
And
sure she
I,
could.
I,
They could have gone a bit more hardcore on the accents and stuff.
right,
Yeah.
like nobody did that in the movie. Nobody made any effort to make it authentic.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wore a fucking gun in the
Yeah.
movie. This
Well,
is
it was
1922
like
Montana.
yeah, it was like early like 1900s, right? It wasn't like 1800s or
No,
anything.
it was 1922 Montana.
Yeah, so that wasn't like the wild wild west. It was just like a cowboy time, like but not
Yeah,
more
yeah, but
modern.
I mean, come on,
Like ranchers. Yeah.
people wore guns back then.
People still do wear guns in a lot of parts of this town, or I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
this country. I mean, sorry.
But
yeah.
maybe that's a good lead up into, like to get into the best picture, and we can touch on other categories as we go. Because yeah, I mean, and Power the Dog is the elephant in the room, the dog in the room, because it's there's like a very strong push to make it win, which I don't know why. I don't know if it's just the producers doing it, or it's the whole industry because of Jane Campion or something. But I'd say nobody said that Jane Campion needs to win Best Picture. Like, did the piano win Best Picture? I don't remember.
I'm not sure.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, look it up. But I think I guess because she's nominated for Best Director too, which she shouldn't win. But it's weird that like the push that this movie has, and I understand why a lot of people are pissed off about it because it feels like it's almost too. It's like they're writing a script for this of like some of these Oscars.
Yeah.
Like where I guess Matt, have you seen most of the nominees? Like the Best Picture?
I've seen most of them. Yeah, I haven't seen all of them, but most of them.
It'll be
She
interesting.
won.
Yeah.
She won best director and best writing for the piano.
But not
And the
Best Picture.
Oscar?
Yes.
Oh wow.
Well, it didn't win Best Picture.
Not according to IMDb.
Oh.
No, the
Let me look it up.
jeez. Why does
What's it called? The
IMDb?
piano?
The
Yeah, the
piano.
piano. Why does
It was better
IMDb?
than the Power of the Dog.
1993?
I think it was. Oh,
It
geez,
seems like a
no,
long
it
time
was the
ago.
year. It was the year that Schindler's List came out, so of
Oh,
course it
oh,
didn't win.
oh, I see. Okay. In any
So
case,
yeah,
if that's what it is, yeah. But in any case, she won director, right?
she
Did
won
she?
director and writer. Oh, wait, no, Spielberg won.
Oh,
What
okay.
the hell is IMDb doing to
I don't know.
me?
Yeah, because I guess
uh,
that's the push because they want like I mean it didn't like Catherine
winner.
Bigelow for best director.
yeah,
In any
yeah.
case,
Are you saying back when you saying
Hurt Locker,
earlier?
no?
Yeah, for the Hurt Locker. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think she might have been nominated for the other one too.
No, because I don't know
Seriously,
if it's some. Yeah, go ahead.
Zero Dark 30.
Oh, Zero
seriously,
Dark.
I'm looking at Jane Champion's page, and it says Academy Awards winner Oscar Best Writing Screenplay written directly for the screen, the piano, and Best Director, the piano. Oh crap! No, all right.
Nominee only.
Yeah, she was nominated for director. She won writer. Okay, I
Got
was
it.
wrong. IMDb
Okay,
was right.
but
Or at least IMDb is saying that IMDb is right. So,
IMDb
okay.
says that IMDb because IMDb says. uh, in any case, yeah, it's funny how IMDb plays a big part of the show, like the ratings, the searching for information. This is what it's for. Um,
Yes,
Yeah.
and anywho, thank you, IMDb. You should sponsor the
indeed.
show.
Please.
um, yeah, so yeah, like it's definitely interesting what's going on there as far as like trying to push for it. But if I were to try to rank these movies, that could lead into what we think about them. I I think Power of the Dog. I have it. I think Power of the Dog, Coda, Don't Look Up, and Nightmare Alley. I think all those I pretty much put at the bottom. Like I think it's in segments, and then I feel like movies that surprised me. or actually, like I'll put Drive My Car in between the bottom list and then the movies that surprised me, because Drive My Car, it's like 3 hours. It's based on a short story, but it feels like it was based on a novel. It's just way too long, and not in a good way. Did you see it, man?
I did not.
Okay, yeah. So I was the only one who was put through that. Um, it's good. It's interesting. It's almost play-like, and it's about a playwright, but it's not. It should not be a Best Picture nominee. There's nothing about it that's. It's as if somebody took Power of the Dog and made it into a 4-hour movie.
Oh
It's
my
just
God.
it did not need to be 3 hours. That same story could have been told in 2 hours, but I guess they were just having this slow crawl idea and try to have some sort of impact by that on the as a story. But it's like about loss and love, and it's interesting, but it really didn't need to be that long. And I get it. You want to make that movie, that's cool. I just don't think it should be a Best Picture nominee. But that's my take on it. It's worth watching for what it is, but I actually barely think so. And I'll come back to it as far as like the best foreign picture. But yeah, and then the movies that pleasantly surprised me were Belfast, West Side Story. I wasn't that surprised because it was Spielberg, but could have gone either way.
Yeah.
And King Richard definitely surprised me. I really like. I was like, Will Smith in the biopic. I wasn't sure about it, but then after it got really good reviews, we made sure to see it. We finished it a couple of days ago, and it's pretty good. I might actually put Will Smith. I totally understand why people want him to win Best Actor. It's of all the nominees, I feel like he's the most not himself. He's doing the most acting. I feel like of all the nominees, and he pulls it off pretty well. But yeah, and then Dune is good, but I borderline think it shouldn't have been nominated. They could have waited for the second part, but I guess they're doing the whole Lord of the Rings where they'll nominate this, it won't win, but maybe it'll win for the second part if it's any good. Yeah, and that pretty much leaves like my choice would be Licorice Pizza. I think it's the best movie of the 10. And I would like to say I was pleasantly surprised, but I obviously always have high expectations for Paul Thomas Anderson movies, but I was really concerned about, like I didn't know where it was going to go. And then once I realized that the movie was trying to be funny, I was like, oh boy, is this like an Inherent Vice type of thing is going to happen? But it's like, no, it's a charming movie and it's got so much going for it, and it also has a lot of like layers underneath the surface the more I thought about it. And I was like, yeah, I gotta say it's the best one, at least of that list. I think it's the best movie on that list. So that's kind of like my overall view of the nominees.
Hmm.
What about you, Matt? I know you saw a bit more than Jason.
I agree with you about Licorice Pizza. I think that is the best movie on the list. Uh, Belfast isn't that far of a second for me. There are a few reasons for that. I mean, it feels it's odd for me to say this as somebody who is entirely cold, calculated, and emotionless. That it's that it's art from the heart. Like it really resonates with you as something that is deeply personal and deeply calculated and emotive, and for the most part beautifully shot. I had some issues with the cinematography, but it hits you in the gut in the best possible way. That was something special. After that, yeah, I think it's West Side Story. I don't think that King Richard really resonated with me in the way that it did with you.
No,
It
I don't think
it
it's
was
tremendous. I just think that it was better than
yeah.
average. Like,
Oh yeah. Okay. In that case, maybe it did resonate with you
I
at the
just said
same
pleasantly
level.
surprised. I had like very low
Right.
expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Dune was gorgeous, but it has the Empire Strikes Back problem of not having an ending.
That's the least of its problems.
Yeah.
Well,
It's a bit more. It feels like actually more like the first Lord of the Ring movie was like we still have much to walk
yeah,
to, so like that leaves it like
right.
that.
I'm glad you're with me, Sam. Cut to the credits. Like, what the fuck did I just watch for 3 hours?
Yeah, the first one is
Right.
problematic, but they fixed it in the second one.
Yeah, but I agree with you that that Licorice Pizza is my pick for Best Picture.
I'll quickly say about Belfast. Yeah, I do. What I appreciate about it is that it's Kenneth Branagh doing a movie differently. Like, because I've seen
Yeah.
other of his movies, like the Thor, and I didn't see the whodunit ones that he's been doing lately. But I'm sure those look nothing
Oh
like Belfast. Like just
no,
the
no.
fact that he,
Jeez.
yeah, yeah, just the fact that he like went and did like a almost like an art house movie, black and white, and it's got like some great angles and camera movement. Some of it is a bit he's trying too much, but some of it really works. Like the compositions and stuff is like, wow, this is like different. Like, and it's not what he does. Like just like kind of bring it from like out of nowhere and say like, yeah, I'm gonna make like a small intimate movie and it's gonna look nothing like any of my other projects. Not everybody can pull that off, you know.
Yeah. No, Belfast was when, as far as I'm concerned, Belfast was the movie that solidified Kenneth Branagh as a real director. I mean, I've loved a lot of his films in the past. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of his full text 4 hour, 20-minute Hamlet. I love Henry V. I love all of his Shakespeare adaptations. Not a huge fan of Sleuth. That was kind of a misstep on his part. Uh, I am not a fan of Death on the Nile uh, or Murder on the Orient Express, but Belfast, I think that he finally made something that really meant something to him, and it really showed.
Yeah.
If you loved a lot of his older stuff, what was it about those that made you think that doesn't really qualify him as like a great director or something,
Oh,
or however it was you just phrased that?
I think I'm jumping off of something that Gil said, where he was breaking from his mold.
Okay.
Uh, I think that he was kind of okay. Let's put it this way: like Henry V, he's dealing with Shakespeare, and that's where he kind of got into the whole theater. Let's do a bunch of long shots. Let's get all the dialogue and the monologues out and show that everybody really has all the Shakespearean dialogue down, and put it on the screen, and that's all we need. And then he makes Dead Again, and he breaks from that, and I know that Adam Kissel liked it, at Columbia, but it's kind of a piece of shit movie. It's really not good. And then he comes back and he makes few projects later he makes Hamlet, mega budget movie, shoots it on 70 millimeter, looks great. There are a few production problems that we can bring up in a later episode if people want to hear about it. But again, he goes back to that formula of long takes. We're just putting Shakespeare's vision on the screen, and but I mean, he did make a lot of really good decisions in that movie that did deviate from the original vision of Shakespeare, being that it was clearly set a couple centuries after Shakespeare's death. But okay, move on. Thor. I'm trying to
Was
abridge this.
awesome.
I'm trying to abridge this because I could literally talk for an hour about Kenneth Branagh's career. Uh,
I think you can talk
uh,
about anything for an hour, but yeah,
yeah,
I think we all
uh,
can.
but I mean, Thor was pretty good. Thor was, yeah, you could even say that it's great. But I mean, a lot of the CG looked pretty like CG.
Yeah,
Uh, uh,
they weren't hiding it.
I mean, there was nothing. I mean, it was a really fun movie, but it wasn't special. And then again, you go back to a movie like Sleuth, which was a remake, and that was just awful. And then finally, he makes Belfast, which is just a movie that comes from him. It is not something that he's no longer a traffic cop in this movie. He wrote it. He made it. I mean, he birthed it out of his urethra and gave it to the world, and it's a good
Wow.
thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll agree. I mean, Thor, he was trying to do something like and it was picked up even later on with, by what's his face in Ragnarok or whatever.
Taika Waititi.
Yeah, like the whole humorous tone and just having a sense of humor about it, but not in the Iron Man way. It was almost like self-aware. This whole thing is very silly, and Thor being a fish out of water thing, he brought something to that. But yeah, Belfast is where he no longer. I wouldn't want to say that he was a traffic cop before. He had like a style, but he was kind of a chameleon. But maybe that's what it is that he doesn't have a specific style. That he's able to be kind of a chameleon, which is not easy to, for most directors. He's just a talented person, and Belfast is really where I feel like he spreads his wing as a creative director. Like yeah, and that's why I say there's actually shots there is like you went a bit too far there, Brana. Like you can see him trying too hard at times, but overall, like he had like a whole deep focus thing there with the compositions and like it's cool. You don't see that like in every movie nowadays. So I was like, that's very interesting, and it makes sense for the story. And it's like small spaces, so you like put characters on top of each other, like in the background, the foreground. A lot of interesting stuff that like none of that is in his movies. So the like late in his career, all of a sudden out of nowhere, like do this movie, and it's close to a slam dunk. It's admirable for sure.
Well, I guess I'll just have to see it.
Yeah, it's not perfect. It's close. Yeah. In any case, what about you, Jason? Which ones did you end up seeing?
Out of the Best Picture nominees, I should say, the only ones that I've seen so far were Don't Look Up, Dune, Nightmare Alley, and Power of the Dog. And I have to say that frustratingly, all four of those movies were fairly disappointing to me. Um,
It's
I
unfortunate
I
picks.
I really when I first saw a trailer for Don't Look Up, I thought it had potential to be really hilariously funny, and it definitely had moments that I really enjoyed and characters that I liked, but I didn't think that they. I don't know. It's a weird one. I didn't like it that much. It's not that I hated it or anything. It's just I can't understand how it's like a Best Picture nominee if that's not that good enough to be that. Dune.
Well, I think it's more of a political statement that than anything
Well,
else.
sure, I
You know,
guess.
and
And
it's
I
not a
mean,
terrible movie.
and I'm oh no, 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 it's not a terrible movie. It's just it reminded me a little bit of watching what was that one with Matt Damon?
Elysium.
Elysium. Yeah, it was like
Oh,
Elysium. It's like a movie that had a very clear political message that it's going for. And the whole time I was, well, not with Elysium, it was different because it was like the last 5 seconds of the movie that ruined it entirely. With this one, it was more like the whole movie. But like the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, I totally get what you're going with here. It's just think that you're kind of living in a dream world if you think that this is a proper allegory. But anyway, whatever. Forget about that. The point is, it's a pretty decent movie. It's just not doesn't need to be a Best Picture nominee. Dune is a movie that I've been incredibly excited for years now, and I went into with extremely high hopeful expectations, and it's probably the biggest letdown of the entire year for me because it should have been so much better, and there's so many things in it that are incredible, and it's just not telling the story properly. I mentioned this briefly to Matt earlier. I mean, I guess I would be very frustrated if Dune won because of the fact that it's such a bad representation of the story. But more than anything, I can't believe it was nominated for best adapted screenplay because that's just like blasphemy. So that's the thing I hope it doesn't win because it's a terrible adaptation of the story in terms of the dialogue, the choices of scenes, the things that they cut out, the things they left in, and it's just really it's so wonderfully cast and it's so beautiful and it's in terms of its tone and its music, sound design, costume design, everything. I wouldn't even mind if it won cinematography because it was a great looking movie. There's so much going for it, but it's not correct. It's got so much wrong, so much missing. Like basically, it's like if you were reading Shakespeare and all the good Shakespeare lines were just taken out entirely. It's like they took everything great that Frank Herbert wrote and like all his great snappy lines and stuff that are so memorable are all gone. And I honestly think they only did it because they wanted to distance themselves from the David Lynch movie, which used those lines. So they chose to remove them just to be different, which is a terrible reason to do that if you're adapting a book. But anyway, whatever. That's my whole take on that. Is just that I was very, very disappointed with it, even though it's an okay movie. And then Nightmare Alley, I actually really enjoyed. I liked the movie a lot. I just when I saw the trailer and read, that Guillermo del Toro directed it, I was like really psyched because I thought, wow, this might be like another like Shape of Water, and I love Shape of Water so much, and it was not Shape of Water. So that was a little frustrating. It was a very good movie. It just I had really high expectations for it too, and it wasn't as good as I'd hoped, but it's still good. And then Power of the Dog was just I'm let's just say this, Gil, I'm glad that you also chimed in with your two bits about it because I thought I was just going to be talking bad things about it, but I, it's not that I.
Well, what
Um,
about Matt? I think he trashed.
well, no. That's what I'm saying. I knew Matt was going to say some stuff. I'm just saying. I hope that I'm glad that that yeah, whatever. Anyway, I'm glad that you
I
joined
liked
in.
it more than the two of you, but
I think
I
you did. Yeah.
definitely
Well,
I put it in the bottom, like the top bottom
right.
four or
Well,
something.
my whole thing is that there's always going to be movies that get nominated that you don't think should get nominated. There's sometimes going to be movies that win, that you didn't think should have won. And there's movies sometimes that you think, that should have been nominated and you get upset because something else got nominated that you think didn't even deserve to get nominated. So there's always going to be that kind of disappointment with the Oscars, no matter what, especially when you have 10 nominations. And I'm not even saying that that's one of any of those things. The Power of the Dog, for me, even though I thought there were some definitely redeeming qualities to it and some good things in it, whatever, I actually think it was a pretty poorly made movie. Now, I've never seen her other movies. I would. Everyone keeps talking about The Piano, and I really want to see that. I'm
Mhm.
sure she's a good filmmaker, but I don't think this was a very well made movie, and I don't really feel like now is the time to go into it. But I mean, there's just stuff that doesn't make sense. Like all four of the main characters have motivations that just don't make any sense. The characters are doing things on screen that don't make sense, and it's like there's just problems with the movie to the point where it's kind of feels to me like it's sloppy. Like I assume you probably have to have read the book to understand why the characters are doing what they're doing because it doesn't make sense. So to me, it's just a bad movie. It's like a poorly made movie. I don't think it deserves to even be nominated. So that's my problem with that one. But and it's just long and there's no joy in it at all. Yeah. those are the 4 I saw. So far, I'm just very disappointed with the Best Picture nominations because the best one I've seen so far was Nightmare Alley. So, or I guess Dune. Those two were just I had high expectations for both, and they both let me down pretty badly. So
Yeah, I mean, I'll give a quick breakdown. Like Nightmare Alley was too long. It felt like the setup didn't need to be as long till the movie got started. So it was a pacing issue there. And it was fine. Everything was fine. The acting was fine. It's just that it also felt not extremely consequential, not nearly as much as The Shape of Water,
exactly,
but it was well made.
it
And
was.
I would borderline be okay with it being nominated for Best Picture. Borderline.
Mhm.
Um, the Don't Look Up. Yeah, I looked it up. Like Doctor Strangelove was nominated for Best Picture, but it's actually an amazing movie. So,
Yes,
but
exactly.
but for other reasons, they probably nominated because it was a very topical thing, and this is
True.
topical. But I agree with you, and I'm very much all for trying to mitigate global warming and all that stuff. But
Of course.
this is not the movie. Like this is not
No.
the allegory. I'm I'm very supportive of the idea, but it's too bad that it was done so poorly. And then the movie itself, it had good intentions as far as what the tone that they were trying to hit
Yeah.
and to be funny at times, but then also depressing. It just doesn't work. Like it needed to go more Doctor Strangelove. It needed to be absurd and be absurd all the way and not take itself. It took itself a bit too seriously at times.
Yeah.
It's okay to have a serious moment maybe near the end, which again, but the allegory doesn't make sense. But it just really didn't strike the right tone. And
I think
then
you
Dune,
said it a lot better than me.
yeah, and then Dune, it's tough for me to judge. I do have a problem with Denis movies. I feel like also with them, they're somewhat non-consequential at the end. Like they're really well made, but he's yet to make a home run movie for me, even though I consider him one of the best directors working, which is kind of depressing. It means that there's like really a shortage of good directors, especially in big budget movies. Yeah, Drive My Car, I said my piece. Belfast, we discussed. I'm going through the list based on the thing.
Yeah.
Licorice Pizza, the man is the bomb. Like, like Paul Thomas
Yeah.
Anderson is a master, and I think he's proved it, and they should fucking give him the Oscar already because he's never won Best Picture. And it's actually amazing if he would win it for something that's like a dramedy, that's actually like a humorous movie and not a There Will Be Blood type of movie, because he really deserves it. Especially because I think he was cheated out for There Will Be Blood. I know No Country is an amazing movie, but I think There Will Be Blood should have won that year. In any case, uh, Power of the Dog, yes. I would borderline nominate The Power of the Dog. Like, I do think that it's a worthwhile movie. I appreciated it. I think it's an important story to tell, about a closeted homosexual and the consequences of that, of living in a society where you can't be open and all the fucked up things that happen with that. But yes, it was not a very good execution of that story. And there's a better movie to be made about that. That was called Brokeback Mountain, or at least like this was a different movie, but could be could have
Yeah.
been done better.
Of the movies that I've seen, I mean, The Power of the Dog, definitely. King Richard, definitely. Maybe Nightmare Alley. I would have bumped them all to give Spencer a Best
Oh
Picture
yes.
nomination.
Oh, I think we've brought that up. Spencer
Yeah,
definitely should bump several of these movies off. That's
yeah.
like crazy. And by the way, I should say it now. Pig, why the fuck is that movie
Holy
not nominated?
shit! Right.
It's better than half the. I actually would take it over Licorice Pizza. Like it would be a tie for me, like with Licorice Pizza for Best
Yeah.
Picture.
Holy fuck! How did
Like
that
what
movie
the
get
fuck is
overlooked?
that not doing in the top 10? Like that's an amazing movie. I don't care if it came out in fucking January. Like what the fuck is this thing about? Like if it's a movie that came out like not in September, nobody remembers it. Like
It just speaks poorly of our attention span as a nation.
Yeah.
I
I
forget as a nation, like it's the Academy. Like they don't look back. I mean,
right.
I agree with you.
No,
I'm just
I
saying.
mean, Nicolas Cage easily should have been nominated for Best Actor. The movie obviously should have been nominated for Best Picture. it should have been nominated for best screenplay. Yeah, that movie knocked my fucking socks off.
I mean,
Yeah.
as long as we're talking about stuff that didn't get nominated that should have, I think The Kingsman was probably like the best movie I saw all year. I I'm not even
Right.
remotely joking about that at all. Spider-Man: No Way Home shouldn't have won, but it was better than half of the movies I've seen so far that were up there. Stillwater, I'm surprised it didn't even get any, like as far as I know, didn't get even mentioned or nominated for anything. I thought Matt Damon should have gotten a nomination for that, and the movie probably should have at least been nominated, even if it wasn't going to win.
I have conflicting feelings about Stillwater. I mean Matt Damon's performance, yeah. I mean, absolutely. The Is it a spoiler to say that I saw the ending coming from a mile away?
Is it a
Well, I mean,
spoiler? No, not
just
really.
don't say what the ending
Yeah,
is.
yeah. If you don't say the ending,
I
no, it's
don't
not.
know. But I mean, I thought it was a creative ending. I just
Now everybody's
got
gonna be like waiting for it from a mile away.
right. I just kind of saw it coming. But
That's a few
um,
movies are like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
yeah.
um,
But you know, I'm never one to say like, oh well, that movie was predictable. I mean, when you've seen like 4,000 movies in your life, every movie is predictable.
Well, not
Uh,
every, almost
well,
every.
I
right,
guess that kind of brings me to round up like my my breakdown of the nominees. So West Side Story, it's a movie that we knew exactly where it was going, but it surprised me. Like
Mm.
it was really well done. I get it that a lot of people, um, Ryan, was like, giving it Spielberg shit for like, nobody asked for this remake. I was like, Spielberg wanted to make this movie for his dad. I guess it's like their favorite musical, and he's wanted to make musical his entire life, but he could not come up with the right story that he would be committed enough. So, and he said this is the only one all these years that he wanted to make. Let the guy, like, he's the boy wonder. Let him make his
right.
version of West Side Story. And you know what? He knocked it out of the park. If
Yeah,
anybody was going to do the story any justice, it's going to be Spielberg, and he did.
yeah. And the last film version is what, 50 years old. So, you
Yeah, and
know,
it's a classic. I think it won Best
yeah,
Picture. Yeah,
right.
which is why it shouldn't win for this one, but I'm glad it's nominated. Yeah, and then just to round up, so King Richard, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised
Hmm.
by it, but it was like it just had like the right touch. It didn't go for the typical biographical stuff. Like it had like nice turns of like plot and stuff, like in good ways. And for that alone, I think it might deserve to be on the list. And then Coda, the last one, I have a serious problem with. I actually think it's a very charming movie, but it's a Hallmark movie.
Mm.
It's funny because we just posted a Stuck in Love
No,
episode.
we did. Yeah.
It's
Uh,
it's way too, and you know what? If I'm not mistaken, the director, I think she also like grew up in the East Coast elite or something. Remember when the Stuck in Love episode we were talking about
Oh
that?
yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like,
Right.
and the movie is in like, I think it's in like on the East Coast, like in some fishing town. And I'm like, come on, like it's a fishing town in the East. And, like you could go totally Ben Affleck, Matt Damon here. Like, could go gritty. And they're like, the family is deaf. So they have to sign, and they have a daughter who is the only one of the family that speaks. Great premise. Now, why did you make it into a Disney movie? Why couldn't it be a bit grittier, a bit less sweet, like a bit, like more edgy? I totally would have like said like that's great. Let's give it a best picture nomination. But the way it was executed, I just I just don't see what people see in it. It was a charming movie, but I feel like a movie I would have stumbled on while clicking like and stopping by the Hallmark Channel during the holiday or something. But in any case, that's my wrap up of the
Yeah.
nominees.
One thought that I had lingering was just with Nightmare Alley. I actually think that I like the movie more than either of you two.
I liked it.
But no, I'm not saying that you didn't like it. I'm just saying that
Yeah.
obviously neither of you would be surprised to hear me say that it would have been better if it were shot on film.
Oh yes. And considering the time that it takes place, it would be more appropriate.
But it really would have been knocked up a notch if it were shot in black and white.
Mm.
I was actually going to ask about that because they had the whole thing about re-releasing it to theaters in black and white, which they did with Parasite too, and I was wondering what your thoughts on that, because it seems like a weird thing to do.
They re-released Nightmare Alley?
Yeah, they had like,
Yeah,
and it was even like, I think it was at the New Beverly too, like on film they projected it.
What?
They had like they call it like a black and white vision. You know, it's like a version of the movie that's black and white.
They did a version of Mad Max Fury Road black and chrome too, but I didn't really feel compelled to do that. But
yeah, the colors are so important, like in Fury Road.
Yeah, but
I can totally see Nightmare Alley kind of working,
I can see
even
that
though the
one
color
working,
scheme was interesting.
Well, Nightmare Alley is a remake of a black and white, film noir, which for the life of me I can't find. I just think it would work better in black and white. I mean, honestly, I don't even care if they shot it on film. Even if you shoot it digitally, I think that it would just work better in black and white.
I do. It seems like there was
sentence, I was going to say, Matt, I think for that sentence to work properly, I think you need to say regardless of whether they shot on film or digitally. I don't think that it's proper for you to. I think it's a lie, basically, for an unintentional lie for you to just blatantly say that you don't care if the movie was shot.
Okay,
because you clearly care.
Yes, that's fair. Regardless, I think it would be better in black and white.
I guess the one advantage to shooting on digital is that you can, present it in color and black and white. You can have both. Yeah. That's, I guess, one of the advantages.
Well, you can do that with color too.
That's true. It's a bit more of a process with film, I guess, but it is possible. The Man Wasn't There was shot in color, I think, and was made black and white on film.
Yeah, that's correct. Also, Control, the movie about Ian. The movie about Ian Curtis that was shot on color film, and also Good Night and Good Luck was shot on color film and processed in black and white. So, but yeah,
it's possible.
Yeah, it's been done dozens of times.
I believe we did it as well.
Yeah, Madeline was shot on color film and processed in black and white.
Yes. I didn't want to segue too far from what we were talking about, but I just felt like, considering we're talking about Nightmare Alley, I think it's worth mentioning that two of the movies I've seen for Best Picture both had small supporting roles by the great Ron Perlman, and I can honestly say that he was my favorite thing in both movies.
Oh, he's often he's very memorable.
Yeah. He was outstanding in his tiny little scene couple scenes that he was in. Don't Look Up. There was some moment where
he was
launched into space and
the douche.
He's like the American hero or whatever that they're just throwing away and whatever. And he says on a public television or something like that, he says like, want to thank all the people, and he says like, and the Indians, both kinds. And he's like, and just like out of nowhere, he just goes, huh? Or he says something like, the ones that own quickie marts and the ones that own casinos or something like that. And then out of nowhere, he just goes, hey, why don't you guys team up? That'd be cool. Like the best
definitely. There's definitely some laughs in that movie for sure.
Yeah.
One thing I should say before I forget is so the as far as like the best international feature or like foreign film.
Oh yeah.
Just to add insult to injury, for Drive My Car. Not only do I don't think it should win Best Picture, but I don't think it should win Best Foreign Film. I saw The Worst Person in the World on the recommendation of Paul Thomas Anderson. He was advocating for that movie a lot. So even though I do appreciate Drive My Car and I didn't completely dislike it, I do think The Worst Person in the World is a better movie. I haven't seen the rest of the nominees, but that one I would recommend to check out. I think it's definitely a quirky, unique movie, and actually refreshingly very engaging. Unlike, you know, not as difficult to get into like most foreign films.
Okay.
Do you know, is it streaming on anything?
We saw it in theaters, but it
Yeah.
might be streaming by now. So
Mm.
I don't know.
Man, it's such a long list of movies I still want to watch.
Well,
It,
one. Sorry.
no,
I was
it's
just
streaming on like it's streaming like for rent, like $6 seems like, but yeah.
Okay.
one movie that I did see that's only nominated for costume design was Cyrano. I don't know anything about costume design. I just know that Cyrano was a pretentious piece of shit. So I'm rooting against it.
The movie or the character? No, just kidding.
The movie.
I'm
I
just
mean,
joking. I know what you
yeah,
mean.
right. Joe Wright is pulling an M. Night Shyamalan, and he's continuing to do it. I mean, he's just getting worse and worse.
Well, he
Oh,
squeaked
I
out
I
a
don't know.
semi-successful
Yeah,
Darkest
Darkest
Hour.
Hour was pretty awesome compared
It
to
wasn't
the.
amazing, but it
Well,
was successful. You know, the funny thing is, I'm
Yeah,
editing the one of our episodes,
uh-huh.
where where we say how Joe Wright, like after he did Pan, like the I guess bad movie made about Peter Pan, it's like yeah, Matt, what was it? Like Matt said something about like should have just cast Gary Oldman, you know, and like it would have fixed the movie or something like that. I don't know what it was. I think because we were talking about funny games, and then and then and then I say like, well, that's what Joe Wright did. He just basically cast Gary Oldman in Darkest Hour, and that's made the whole movie for him. Saved him from like making another bad movie.
yeah. I mean, Gary Oldman's performance of that movie entirely drew the viewer's eyes away from the fact that his camera work made absolutely no fucking logical sense.
Yeah, you
But
were talking about the director of The Contender and how he's continuously made like hasn't made like any good movies since The Contender, and then
yeah,
he said something like you should just cast Gary Oldman again.
yeah, yeah. But I
That's a
mean,
good movie.
no matter how much I like Peter Dinklage, he could not save that dumpster fire of a movie.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's unfortunate. The other ones
He's
that I
a,
saw
he's a great
is
actor, but he's not bulletproof. He's done some bad movies.
yeah,
yeah, the I saw The Lost Daughter was directed
Oh
by
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maggie Gyllenhaal, and it's with
And
Olivia
she
Colman.
wrote it too, didn't she?
Yeah, I am not sure. I believe so. Yeah, but it's I think it might be adapted. But in any case, it's not bad. It's not great. Like it's I'm glad we saw it, but and the it's complex. Like the it's nominated for Best Actress, which makes sense for Olivia Colman because it is a very complex like character. But Kristen Stewart should still win. And the only other one that's like I think nominated for anything is I saw Being the Ricardos, and Nicole Kidman is nominated for Best Actress too, which I is also very deserving because she really nailed that. Like it was kind of controversial that they like like cast her and stuff. Like, and the movie is not amazing; it's interesting, but she's just like really like she's like I really feel like even as respected as she is, I still think she's underappreciated, Nicole Kidman. I really think she's better than Meryl Streep. That's how much I think that
Wow,
she's underappreciated. Like I
wow.
like the roles that I've seen her in and knocking things out of the park left and right. I really feel like she should have 5 Oscars by now.
Hmm.
I I, I don't know. Every time I see her, it's like, how did she pull that off? It's like
Hmm.
it's so seamless. So yeah, kudos to her. But still, Kristen Stewart. um,
Yeah. One of the other things I just wanted to mention real quick is I always try my best to see all of the animated feature films because there's only like 5 of them, and this year so far, I've only seen two out of them so far. From what everyone says, it's probably going to be Encanto that wins. And while I did think it was a pretty good movie, I think it's a little overrated. I'm not sure what the hype is all about.
I think the music is a big part of it because it's
Well, unquestionably, but
yeah.
do you, okay, real quick. I don't want to get into this like that deep or anything, but recently we all recorded a podcast about musicals. Talking about the things we liked and disliked and whatever. And Matt actually brought up an earlier Lin-Manuel Miranda play, I believe.
The
And
Heights
yes,
movie,
yeah, in the
Yeah.
Heights, or something like
In the
that.
Heights.
And he specifically brought up one specific thing that bothered him about the movie, which kind of, I guess I could say, boiled down to unnecessarily unnecessary exposition being kind of just tossed out during a song where they're showing everything at the exact same time as saying it and singing it.
Yeah.
I think that you might have damaged the movie for me because about 2 to 3 weeks later, after recording that, I'm watching this movie in Canto, and to its credit and in its defense, I must say that the first couple songs have a massive amount of information that have to get dumped to the audience. So I think it's kind of necessary.
Yeah.
But throughout the movie, there is a lot of what Matt described as a problem in that movie. And I'm just kind of like watching, and there's all these little characters asking the main character girl, like, what about this and what about that? And she's like singing and explaining things to them while they're showing it on screen. And I'm kind of like, wow, this is everything Matt talked about. And he's talking about a totally different movie. But no, I don't want to be too harsh on it. It just it was pretty good. I don't know why it's getting so much praise. And
Well,
the
for a
riot,
Disney movie, it's because
yeah,
it was almost Pixar-like, and it's like it was trying to have a lot of heart, and it was going for the whole like Columbia, right? I think the
yeah, it's Columbia, yeah.
Columbia and stuff, like they're trying to get all the authenticity, and it's not Disney is not famous for doing that. It's more Pixar did it with Coco and similar
Yeah,
type of stuff. Like I guess Moana was the Hawaiian Disney thing like that. But yeah, it was really trying to be very true to the culture and all that. So and people appreciate that nowadays.
I guess that's true that people really do tend to appreciate that stuff. They leaned real heavy onto the culture stuff a lot. So and I mean in a good way too.
And I'll
Uh,
forgive it for the songs because like at least it's a children's movie, so you do want to say and show as opposed to like In the Heights where Matt's correct. You probably don't need to say and
Well,
show.
let's just say that I agree with you what you're saying about that, but let's just say that there have been plenty of movies that came before it that did a better job. I would say, that don't necessarily have that issue. The other one, the Raya the Last Dragon one, was another Disney one that came much earlier in the year, and it's a pretty much by the numbers movie. It's very predictable, and not super memorable. I think it's worth mentioning when a movie does something really particularly well or extraordinarily well. But if there's one thing I can say about that movie, even though it wasn't super memorable or even like amazing or anything, it has the best fight sequences I've ever seen in an animated movie.
Hmm.
And I think I'm pretty sure that has to do with the fact that they I think they got stunt people to like coordinate it in live action and then filmed them just like on mats and stuff like that, like in a gym somewhere, like pretending to do the sword fights and stuff, and then use that videos to show the animators what they wanted them to do or something like that. But yeah, it's the few times you get a couple of characters on the screen really like going at it with swords and stuff like that, it just looks really really good.
That's good. Yeah, the only other one I can mention is I saw Tick Tick Boom, which is the one that
Oh, yeah,
Lin-Manuel Miranda directed, and it was surprisingly good. Like
it's
it
Andrew
was
Garfield,
enjoyable.
right?
Yeah, Andrew Garfield, who's nominated for Best Actor. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely sings
my
his heart out.
niece,
That one.
my niece really wants Andrew Garfield to win.
Because of that. Yeah. Yeah, I
uh,
would be on the fence, Andrew Garfield and Will Smith, mostly because like he really like Andrew Garfield like really went all out there. Like it's not just the singing, like it is just he really committed to that role. And it's an interesting story because it's the guy who like I guess died young that wrote the Rent play.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and it's very relatable to, you know, us aspiring artists and stuff, like, cause it's like he struggles with his career and stuff to get it going and stuff, and it's interesting. Like it's not a slam dunk, but you know, as the first feature that he's directed, Lin-Manuel, and it's not his songs. It's actually it's always an interesting approach for him, like to actually try to direct someone else's songs in his first feature.
I kind of want to see that one, even though it's not really in my wheelhouse or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, it might be, but obviously, I'm sure you have other things to watch first. But maybe you get
Oh, I
around to
mean,
it. It's on
it's
Netflix.
not. Yeah, it's not. Oh, is it really? That's good. That'll help.
I think it is. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it's a Netflix movie, so it will be there forever, most likely. So,
It's not high on my list, but I definitely would like to see it at some point.
yeah, I think. Is there anything else we haven't covered?
I have not seen it. I don't think any of us have seen it, but just as long as we're talking about the Oscars, it's worth mentioning. Something very interesting and strange this year. There's a Danish movie called Flea, like Flee, and it's an animated feature film that is also a documentary. So, as a weird result of those odd combination of things, I mean, I have no clue. I didn't look this up or anything, but I would just wager that it's probably the first film to ever be nominated as an animated feature, a a foreign film, and best documentary all at the same time.
Yeah, it is. So what was the third thing? Like it's nominated for?
It's a best independent, or sorry, international, foreign film.
And best documentary and best animated. Oh, so it's all four,
All
three.
three.
Sorry.
It's a very odd combination of nominations.
Yeah, that's yeah.
I'm
It's
very curious to see it. I just have no idea when I'll ever get around to it.
I think I now feel like I should see it just for that. You got to give them
Right?
props
I mean,
for
kind of like
pulling that
history,
off.
right?
Yeah. So it's you got to see that.
Who knows? Maybe it's
Yeah, who
really
knows? I
good.
might like it more than the worst person in the world. But
Possibly.
yeah, so but you would think international feature film would only be a narrative, no? That's weird.
I that's another thing that bothers me is like these these things where they give international films their own separate category and documentaries their own separate category and animation their own separate category. It's weird when there's overlap like that. I don't know.
I'm assuming it's supposed because best documentary could be a foreign one. Like you want to tell me that the best documentaries are all five are always in English?
Yeah, that
Like
doesn't
there's
make
gotta
sense.
that doesn't make sense because like it would be tough to squeeze in a documentary that's in a foreign language to the foreign film category. Like that one should be a narrative, just like the best picture is, and documentaries should just be like all languages. I don't know,
I agree.
but I guess it hasn't come up yet. Yeah, you would think there's a lot of really good documentaries out there that are in different language, and I'm sure there's people who watch them and
Yeah.
they win awards and stuff, so they get the attention of the Academy. And yeah,
Who
in
knows?
any case, yeah. So we went kind of long.